When I was in graduate school for communications, I had a magnificent professor named Phil. I am not going to give his last name. Of course, he was a doctor. He was a PhD. We are going to call him Dr. Phil. So when I went to his office, he was both my teacher and advisor. So, and I also worked for him. So, and we became friends. He was a young man, and we became friends actually. So, when I went to his office, his gatekeeper, his secretary, was very kind to me and always let me pass and go forward. So I would knock on his door. This is where the interesting thing is. When you knocked on his door and cracked the door, he would just sit behind his desk and just look at you. Wait to see what you're going to say. If I said Phil, he would say, "Hi Shay." He would get up and come to this side and just make a pipe. So, well, what are you doing today? Well, how are your classes? What's up? You want to go out afterwards or whatever, We talked. And he made me a pipe. We both smoked pipe, like tobacco pipe, of course. So we made pipe, we sat down, we talked. And he was a very kind man, very nice man. If I went over there, he was also my teacher, my professor, and my advisor too. If I went over there, I would say, Dr. His last name, he would just sit there, say yes. He would just sit behind his desk. He wouldn't get up. So when I went in, he wouldn't even say sit down or anything. Now, if I went in, I would say, like, I want to talk about getting some advice. He would say, "Oh, please take a seat." Across from his desk. I mean, for every situation, he acted differently. The reason I explain this is because he was my communication professor, and I learned a lot from him. There are 3 levels of communication, basically. Real fast, it's interpersonal, social, and cultural. Interpersonal does not mean personnel, and it has nothing to do with business, contrary to sometimes, you may have heard that you have to work on your interpersonal relationship or interpersonal communication. But interpersonal communication has to do with like husband and wife, father and father and son, mother and child. It's between 2 people. So it's not personnel. Is a group of people, like people that work for you. It's not personal. So interpersonal, it's about persons, 2 people only, and it involves deep emotions, very deep emotions, such as love, lust. Sex belongs there. I am talking about lust in terms of sex. Sex belongs in there between husband and wife, lovers, and it doesn't belong anywhere else. And it's nobody's business what your rules are, actually. It's not a public affair, basically. So contrary to what a lot of people think and talk about, marriage, my marriage, your marriage and things, it should really not be a public communication. And you should not be copying anybody else's. It's a relationship between 2 people, and it has to stay that way. It's like a castle with 2 knights, basically. And in that castle, these 2 knights keep everybody out. The husband, his own relations, and the wife, her own relations. And the 2 of them live happily ever after with their own rules, not the rules of their father-in-law or their mother-in-law or their brother-in-law or their neighbor-in-law or whatever. Those rules belong only to these 2 people. They don't need to be copied, and they don't need to be a copy of anything. Having said that, there's a list of emotions that can be there, and it goes real deep, and necessarily so, because it's involves a lot of emotions, from fear, love, even hate, lust, courage, etc. Then we've got, on the other end, we've got the cultural level. The cultural level also is a very emotional thing, but it's a group emotional thing, such as your personal religion, your personal political party, not politics, just political party, school ties, the things that are very, very deeply involved. It involves language, actually, because it has to do with culture. The basis of culture, one of the most basic bases of culture, is language. Such as in America, we have the English language, so our culture is actually English. It's not American. American is a subculture, you see, because if we go back, we have to, if we want to become literal, we have to go to Shakespeare and stuff, to understand the roots of what is happening, to understand the roots and depth of understanding of taboos and etc., and etc. So it's very, very deep. Again, it goes back to love, love with God, basically. Understanding of love of God and etc. That is that type of thing. It's very deep. Patriotism belongs there, and the rest of the things that you can put in a cocoon, as I said, like a religion. It's a group of people in a cocoon. A political party, a group of people in a cocoon. As I said, it goes deep, and we are prepared to do a lot of things for it. People for centuries have killed or died for their religion, for instance. I am not saying it is right or wrong. I am saying it is so. That is how it works. It's very interesting that the root of the word culture is colere. Colere, it's a Latin word. It means to nurture, to tend to, and to grow. I am going to come back to this because it's so important, so deep. Then we are going to the social level of life. Social level of life is very superficial, if you will. Very, very superficial. It's as thin as glass, basically. Real thin. And it's breakable, quite breakable. Under it is a void. You see, nothing. Nothing is not a very happy place. Void is not a very happy place. It's a place of fears. That is why if that superficial stage breaks, you may have wars, unnecessary wars, chaos, anarchy, and etc. You say, oh yeah, we can have it in every level. Well, it's a little bit different, because if you do that in a cultural level, what happens is that Actually, you bring it to the social level and fight it. You don't fight it there. Now, if you fight it over there, you are doing it with deep emotions. You're going all the way to the heart of things. Here in the middle, where the social level of life is, the superficiality of it looks for progress, not, progress that way. Doesn't go deep this way, doesn't go down. In a interpersonal level of life, it's deep, it goes down. It's not about progress. It may progress, but it's not about progress. On this side, the cultural level is not about progress. It's not about changing what your beliefs are in religion. It's not about that. You may change your beliefs about religion, but it's not about that. It's about that cocoon, the taboos, the rights and wrongs, the good and evil. You see, in the social level, it's about likes. It's about ice cream. This is a conversation. So, do you like the sunshine today? Oh yes, I like it very much, but a little bit of rain is not bad at all, But I like to go and sit down and have some ice cream when it's sunny like this, right outside on the porch, right there at that cafe, side street cafe. And the other one says, oh yes, what kind of ice cream do you like? Well, I like watermelon. The other one says, well, I like just plain vanilla. Well, both are real good. My mother likes plain vanilla. That is where the conversation is. It's about the news. Did you hear about the school teacher that wore a wig? Something really superficial. How about them Yankees, But that's really dangerous because you named one of the teams. You shouldn't, because it jumps right into the cultural level, and the other person may be with the other side. That's not a good thing. So do you watch football? Do you watch baseball? Do you watch the games? Do you watch ball? Basically, very careful steps to find out on which side the other person is. That's where the social level of life is. Actually, politics in general belongs there, not political party. News and politics belongs there. A lot of issues that come up is that the news system actually talks about different parties, and they take side with different parties. They comment about it. It used to be that the commentators from each party talked, and the anchor person did not talk about what is right and what is wrong. Now, with the advent of the new anchor personship, they're doing it differently. They're confusing it. They are basically creating some sort of, may I say, chaos? Now, I am not saying again who is right, who is wrong. I am just letting you how this thing happens. By mishmashing things. That's what happens. The reason I said all of this was because I was going to talk about evolvement. Evolvement occurs basically in the cultural level, actually. It has to do with cleansing. It has to do with nurturing. It has to do with understanding. It has to do with tending. You may come back and say, well, what about the interpersonal? In there you're going to have to do those. Yes, but it's not everybody's business. That belongs to them personally. It's personal evolvement. And it does not jump into the outside either. So a husband that is so evolved in his relationship with his wife, and a wife who is so evolved with her relationship with her husband, outside they may look like very boring people. How about that? I don't know. You can judge. They may not be the same people, even in church or at work, which is the social level of life. But in the cultural level, when you evolve, it's like this. You see, you've got your own cocoon, and I've got my own cocoon. And this person has their own cocoon, and that person their own cocoon. And many other cocoons. And we are all in the cultural world. Each of us our own cultural world. Just imagine that this is about tending, nurturing, and growing. Incidentally, having said that, the word culture, colere, is also has to do with growing and farming. Culture, cultivating. So, think about it. Think about it. Imagine that it's two farms. These two cocoons of separate cultures are basically two farms, two orchards, if you will. One of them is a cherry orchard, the other one is an apple orchard. And Farmer Joe is in the apple orchard, Farmer Apple and Farmer Cherry, basically. They're both working their orchards, and do they say hello? Of course they should. They should. And, how's the season for you? It's real good. How's it for you? They ask questions. More than likely they use the same water, the same stream. If you notice that the other person, his trees have some sort of bug somewhere down there, you should tell him. You tell him, say, I noticed some things on your tree. I'm not much of a cherry person, but I saw some things. You may want to tend to that. Hey, come and show me. And the guy jumps on this side. They go over there, they look at it. Oh my God, this is not good. So he helps him. He cares. He tends. Get an understanding. Just one step. Just one step. That's an evolvement. That's rather cleansing. You understand, increasing your own identity from just apples to apples and cherries. You understand, you have a glance of these cherries and how they grow and how this man suffers. And then, if something happens to yours, he does the same thing. You are side by side orchard tenders, basically. And little by little, you go forward. It's not a jump. It's not necessarily a jump to evolve. It's a practice. It's an effort, if you will, to evolve. If you ride a bicycle, you should pay attention to the first foot in front of you and have a glance at the next 5 feet after that. You may notice when you do that When you do that, by taking a small step, when you do that, going uphill becomes much easier. A child, when he wants to walk, he takes the first step first. Why do we talk about the child? When I walk, first step, second step, third step, fourth step. I don't start with the fourth step, going third step, second, first. I go the first step and I make sure that's a very strong step, and then go to the second step. I understand that mountain climbers and rock climbers, they always pay attention to the next rock, to the next place they can grab a hold of, not the fourth place up there. Focus on that and go forward. You see, it's doable. It's quite doable. I would like to share a story of a young man that in one of the border cities and towns of the United States with the South. And one day he was on one of these highways, and he was just driving. He was about to speed up and pass a car. He noticed that the car that he's passing is kind of wobbly, and as he was passing, he noticed that from the hood of that car there is something like steam or smoke is coming out. So he points out to that driver that, you know, there's smoke. But he notices also that this car is full of women and children. He passes. As he's passing, he looks in his mirror and sees that, oh my goodness, the car has caught on fire and they're pulling to the side of the road. So he pulls to the side of the road too, immediately. And he was so pumped and he was so besides himself. He saw some women and children about to be burned. He wasn't going to just pass by. He did pass by, but you see, why is it that he was the one who saw that first? There is a reason probably for that. So he gets out of the car, and basically as if he's in a tunnel. His vision is a tunnel vision. He's going towards that car that is catching on fire. By the time he's arriving to the car, it is caught on fire. From the hood, fire is coming out. He gets over there and he's trying to open the door and thinks he cannot. He sees that women and children there. Smoke is getting packed in the car. And he keeps trying and he can't open it, so he motions to the driver to step back, and he just breaks the side window of the driver with his elbow, and the driver, being a real courageous man himself, starts putting out the children, basically sending the children out, and the man was taking him and just bringing him out real fast, and it ended real fast, and he's standing right there, the young man standing right there, and he's like, oh well, what do I do now? And he looks around and he notices, oh my goodness, the whole highway, both sides, there is 300, 400 cars that have stopped all around the car, this car that he was helping, and he thought he was alone. There's at least 40 people working. And the reason he was getting these children out so fast was because people were taking them. He was pulling them out, but people were taking them. He was so involved in his tunnel of helping, going forward in evolvement, understanding the pain of others, nurturing and tending, that he didn't notice the other people. And you know what? most other people were the same way too. They didn't care who these people were. It was obvious to everybody when things calmed down a little bit that these are illegal immigrants and probably have passed the border somehow, and they are basically on the run, and any minute the patrol may arrive. The police had come already, and the police was helping actually with this whole process. It was so fast that that is incredible. Everybody got these people in different cars towards the same direction that these people were going, gave them different shirts, gave them clothes. There were people that just basically men that took off their own t-shirts and just gave it to these people. And, it was a tremendous scene, I believe. So, there was that evolvement. It doesn't always have to be this dramatic. It doesn't really. That one step at a time is all it takes, actually. So, Colere, tend, evolve. That is what it's all about. You see, we are the champions, as we talked about it before. We evolved from breathing not air, just water. We were in our mother's womb. We did not even use these lungs. We didn't eat. There was a tube attached to us and we had no idea what this tube was all about. We had the courage. We had the courage to break from that and jump outside to a world that was so painful. The route of going through was so painful and tight and hard and dark. And as we came out, there was light burning our eyes, and air hurting our lungs, and sounds hurting our ears. Lungs that we didn't even know we had, eyes that we didn't even know we had. You see, we are champions. If we can jump from one world to another with such courage and evolve, endure, and move on like a bulldozer, just keep going for the first breath, trying to see when our eyes just shows one line. Just keep focusing and keep focusing and keep focusing until we start seeing, oh, this is that guy that speaks to me so kindly and touches me so kindly. Oh, this is that lady that puts her breast in my mouth and feeds me and holds me so tenderly. And you smile at them. And they are so happy that you just smiled. Your first smile. Even when you go to the bathroom, they're happy. Evolvement, it doesn't make you only happy, it makes others happy too. It's joyous. It's a joyous occasion. Think about it. How happy our parents were when they noticed that we could go to the bathroom. Oh, right. We could actually roll. Goodness. Or we could get on our fours. and just try to go and keep falling, getting up, bang, keep falling. When we grab the side of a table or a couch and we stand up, what a happy occasion! Evolvement. Going forward, we are the champions. We can do it. A little bit of nurturing, a little bit of tending, a little bit of understanding of what other people, what other cultures, what other cocoons are going through. Why have they made those cocoons around themselves? Maybe it's important. Maybe it's as important as the cocoon that I have. Very interesting. You see, when we want to say somebody is so good, say he's a very good man. He loves his family. He is a very good man. He loves his country. He's a true patriot. You know, he served in the forces. He went to war for us. He is a very good man. And he's church going. He goes to such and such temple. I know that. I know his family. His dad was like that too. You know? Of course you love your own family. Of course I love my own family. Of course everybody... I am so sorry all the animals like their own family, love their own family. A lion tears you to pieces if you get close to their cubs. So, all animals are like that. That part of us is the animal part of us, actually. I'm not saying it's wrong, but everybody should. If you are faithful to your wife, really? Of course you should be faithful to your wife. This is not a chip on my shoulder if I'm faithful to my wife. So why would I marry a woman I don't want to be faithful to? Think about it. Why wouldn't I love my own mother? Why wouldn't I love my own father? They gave me life. Of course, I love my country. Of course I do. But, you see, when we say, how about that other country to ourselves, our answer is normally, oh, I've got a friend from such and such country. Is that the same thing as understanding their position of life, understanding their taboos, understanding their rights and wrongs, understanding their history, understanding their life, tending to it, nurturing it, increasing your own evolvement, your own identity, growing your own identity to a level where not only you love your own child, you can love your neighbor's child. That's fantastic. I like it. Not only, of course, I love my own child, my own children. Of course. If I don't, I would be insane. There is something wrong with me if I don't. Actually, even science and psychology agrees with that. A person who cannot love his own family has got an issue. I'm sure everybody agrees with that. But you should. It is your starting point. Living in your mother's womb, understanding everything, and little by little growing these hands and feet and the rest of the body, step by step. It did not happen in one day. It took 9 months and 9 days, I believe, something like that, to grow the whole thing to a point where you actually can move to the other world and start living a new life, seeing the new horizon. Even when you start, it's painful, but look at it, it's gorgeous too. It's gorgeous. Okay, champ, I'm talking to all of us. I think the word of the day is Colere. What do you think? Here is to here, and here is to now.